The blue lights on the bridge of the Xerion command ship blinked rapidly. Warning signals flashed across screens as officers rushed to their stations. Admiral Joran, with his tall gray body and 4 eyes, stood from his command chair. "Report," he ordered. A young officer named Krell looked up from his screen. His hands shook. "Sir, something just appeared at the edge of the system. It came from nowhere." "Impossible," Joran said. "Nothing can enter a system undetected. The sensors don't." "Lie, sir." Krell pulled up an image on the main screen. There it was, a ship of unfamiliar design. It was smaller than the Xerion battleships but had a sleek, dangerous look. Strange markings covered its dark hull. The most prominent was a circular emblem with blue and white stripes and stars. "Magnify," Joran ordered. The image grew larger. The ship's name became visible. USS Defiant. "What species uses that designation?" Joran asked the room. Science Officer Mira consulted her database. "Humans, sir. From the Sol system. They're a primitive species. They've barely left their home planet." Joran frowned. "Then how is one of their ships here at Procyon, 12 light-years from their home?" No one had an answer. "Scan that vessel," Joran ordered. The scan results appeared moments later. The bridge fell silent. "That can't be right," Mira said. "The energy readings suggest technology far beyond what humans should possess. And there's something strange about their drive system. It's unlike anything in our database." Joran considered the situation carefully. The Xerion Empire controlled 17 star systems. They were the most powerful force in this part of the galaxy. For centuries, they had expanded by finding less advanced worlds and protecting them, which really meant taking them over. Today they planned to claim the human colony on New Horizon, the 3rd planet in the Procyon system. But now this human ship had appeared between the Xerion fleet and their target. "Open communications," Joran ordered. The communications officer tried several frequencies. "No response, sir." "They're moving," Krell reported, "taking position between us and the colony world." Joran felt uneasy. This was not how things were supposed to go. Humans were supposed to be easy to conquer. Their colony should have no protection beyond simple orbital satellites, continue trying to make contact, and charge weapons, just in case. Aboard the USS Defiant, Captain Patricia Miller watched the alien fleet on her view screen. 12 large warships and numerous smaller vessels formed a crescent in space. For years, Earth had known about the Xerion and their expansion plans. While, pretending to be less advanced, humans had secretly prepared. "They're scanning us, Captain," Lieutenant Richard Boyd reported from the tactical station. His fingers moved quickly across his console. "And I'm detecting weapon systems powering up." Patricia nodded. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and steady hands. She had trained for this moment for years. The Defiant was humanity's first true warship capable of faster-than-light travel. Dr. Alan Hoffman's fold drive had allowed them to appear without warning, bypassing all the normal detection systems aliens used. "Open a channel," she ordered. When Admiral Joran's face appeared on screen, Patricia saw the confusion in his 4 eyes. The translator would convert her words to the alien's language. "This colony is under the protection of the United Earth Alliance," Patricia said firmly. "Your fleet will withdraw immediately or face consequences." Joran blinked all 4 eyes in sequence, a sign of surprise in his species. "Who are you to make demands? How did your ship arrive undetected?" "I am Captain Patricia Miller of the Earth. Warship Defiant. How we arrived is not your concern. What matters is that we are here, and we will defend New Horizon." The alien admiral seemed unsure how to respond. "Humans are not supposed to have this level of technology," Patricia allowed, herself a small smile. "There are many things about humans you don't know, Admiral. We've been watching the Xerion Empire for some time. We know about your plans to peacefully integrate independent worlds into your control. It stops today." On his ship, Admiral Joran consulted quietly with his officers. The human vessel was just one ship against his fleet. Yet something about its sudden appearance and the confidence of its captain made him cautious. "We need more information," he told his officers. "Scan every part of that ship. and check if there are more human vessels in the area. Back on the Defiant, Dr. Alan Hoffman joined Captain Miller on the bridge. He was the scientist who had invented the fold drive that powered their ship. With gray hair and bright eyes, he looked more like a kind grandfather than a military scientist. "They're trying to figure out how we got here," he said, watching the alien fleet. "The fold drive has them completely confused." "Good," Patricia replied. "Confusion leads to caution." Lieutenant Commander Jason Ellis, the ship's second-in-command, approached. "Captain, should we power up the particle lance? A demonstration might convince them we're serious." Patricia considered this. The particle lance was Earth's most powerful weapon. It could penetrate any known shield by partially shifting out of phase with normal space. The Xerion would have no defense against it. "Not yet," she decided. "Let's see how they respond first. Contact Earth Command, request permission to reveal our negotiation terms if needed." On New Horizon below, the human colonists went about their day unaware of the confrontation happening in orbit. Only Governor Catherine Morgan and her staff knew what was happening. Catherine had received encrypted messages about the Defiant's mission days earlier. "Prepare the emergency shelters," she told her staff, "just in case." Catherine had lived on New Horizon for 15 years. Under her leadership, the colony had thrived, transforming the once hostile planet into a home for 10,000 humans. She had no intention of letting the Xerion take over. In the Xerion fleet, Admiral Joran received more scan results. His scientists were baffled by the human ship's technology, and now their long-range sensors had detected energy disturbances in nearby systems. Possibly more human ships arriving the same way. The Council must be informed, he decided. Within hours, emergency sessions were called in the Galactic Council chambers on the Xerion homeworld. The news spread quickly. A human warship had appeared without warning, challenging the mighty Xerion Empire and protecting a colony everyone thought was defenseless. For the first time in centuries, the Xerion faced a species that might be their technological equal, or perhaps even their superior. And no one had seen it coming. The game had changed. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with angry voices. 50 alien representatives from across the Xerion Empire argued loudly. At the center of the room, a hologram showed the human warship Defiant, hanging in space near the colony of New Horizon. "How did we miss this?" demanded Counselor Vex, slamming his three-fingered hand on the table. "Humans were supposed to be primitive." Dr. Susan Wright stood calmly before the council. As the head of human studies at the Xerion Academy, she was now the most important expert in the Empire. All 4 of her arms held data tablets showing information about Earth and its colonies. "We underestimated them," she said simply. "It appears humans have been hiding their true technological progress while watching us." The Grand Counselor, oldest and wisest of the Xerion, leaned forward. "Tell us about this ship. How did it appear without warning?" Susan touched one of her tablets and the hologram zoomed in on the Defiant. "Their ship uses what they call a fold drive. It doesn't travel through normal space like our ships do. Instead, it creates a temporary wormhole, allowing it to jump directly to its destination." "That's impossible," said the science minister. "Such technology would require energy levels beyond what any known civilization can produce." "Yet they have done it," Susan replied. "And intercepted communications suggest this is not their only such vessel." The room fell silent at this news. "How many ships do they have?" asked the Grand Counselor. "Unknown," Susan admitted. "But we have detected similar energy signatures in nearby star systems. It seems they have been preparing for this moment for some time." Meanwhile, aboard the Defiant, Captain Patricia Miller received new orders from Earth Command. The message came through a secure channel that used the fold drive's unique properties to prevent interception. "Captain, you are authorized to begin Stage 2 of the operation," said the message from Admiral Kemp. "Governor Morgan will start negotiations while you maintain defensive position. 2 more ships, the Valiant and the Dauntless, will arrive within 48 hours to reinforce your position." Patricia turned to her crew. "It seems we've made quite an impression. Admiral Joran's fleet hasn't advanced or retreated." Lieutenant Commander Jason Ellis studied the tactical display. "They're confused. Their entire strategy relied on us being an easy target. And now they don't know what to do. Patricia finished. Good. Uncertainty is a powerful weapon. Dr. Alan Hoffman entered the bridge, his eyes bright with excitement. Captain, I've been monitoring their scan attempts. They're trying to figure out how the fold drive works, but they're looking in all the wrong places. Keep them guessing, Doctor, Patricia said with a smile. The longer they stay confused, the stronger our position becomes. On the planet below, Governor Catherine Morgan prepared to meet with the Xerian representatives. Unlike the military, personnel on the Defiant, Catherine believed that diplomacy could succeed where force might fail. The meeting room is ready, Governor, her assistant said. The Xerion shuttle will arrive in 30 minutes. Catherine nodded. She was a tall woman with dark skin and a calm voice that inspired trust. For 15 years, she had led the colony of New Horizon, turning it from a struggling outpost into a thriving community. Remember, she told her team, the Xerion respect strength, but value knowledge even more. We need to show them both. When the Xerion delegation arrived, Catherine was surprised to see Admiral Joran himself among them. The tall gray alien moved with caution, his 4 eyes constantly scanning the human settlement. Welcome to New Horizon, Catherine said formally. I am Governor Morgan. We are honored by your visit. Your hospitality is noted, Joran replied stiffly. Though I must say, Governor, your colony has many secrets. Catherine smiled. Not secrets, Admiral. Just aspects we haven't had the opportunity to share until now. She led the delegation through the colony's main street. The Xerion watched with interest as humans went about their daily lives. Children played in parks under artificial weather domes. Workers tended to farms where earth plants grew in the alien soil. How long have humans been on this planet? Asked one of the Xerion scientists. 15 years, Catherine replied. When we arrived, the atmosphere was toxic. Now, as you can see, we've transformed it. The scientist looked impressed. Such atmospheric change should take centuries. Catherine nodded toward a large building at the edge of town. Our atmospheric processors work quickly. Perhaps you'd like to see them? Inside the building, massive machines hummed quietly. Screens showed the ongoing process of converting the planet's air into something humans could breathe without masks. This technology, the Xerion scientist began, then stopped, clearly amazed. Is something we'd be willing to share, Catherine finished for him. Under the right agreement, of course. Admiral Joran's eyes narrowed. You speak of agreements when your warship threatens my fleet? The Defiant is not a threat, Admiral, Catherine said calmly. It's a statement. Humans wish to join the galactic community as equals, not as subjects. We have much to offer in exchange for mutual respect. In orbit, the Defiant continued its silent standoff with the Xerion fleet. The ship's sensors detected new activity. Captain, reported Lieutenant Boyd. 3 more Xerion warships just entered the system. Patricia frowned. Reinforcements? I don't think so, Boyd replied. They're not joining the main fleet formation. They're hanging back near the edge of the system. Dr. Hoffman studied the readings. They're waiting for something, or someone. Patricia had a sudden realization. They're waiting to see if more human ships arrive. They want to know how many we have. She smiled at the clever tactic. The Xerion were testing them, trying to gauge the true extent of human power. Send a message to Earth Command, she ordered. Request that the Valiant and Dauntless arrive from different vectors. Let's keep them guessing about our capabilities. Back on New Horizon, Governor Morgan was showing the Xerion delegation the colony's research facilities. This is Dr. Paul Evans, our lead scientist. She introduced a man with glasses and a friendly smile. Paul showed the aliens several ongoing projects. This device can purify water from any source, and this one can grow food in even the most hostile environments. Admiral Joran watched silently. Then he turned to Catherine. Governor, your people have achieved much. But why hide these achievements until now? Catherine met his gaze steadily. When a small creature lives near a large predator, Admiral, it learns to stay hidden until it's strong enough to defend itself. The Admiral's skin changed color slightly, a sign of emotion in his species. You consider us predators? We consider you expansionists, Catherine replied. The Zirion Empire has absorbed 17 independent worlds in the last century. We studied your history before establishing our colonies. For the first time, Admiral Joran seemed truly surprised. Colonies? You have more than one? Catherine realized she had revealed more than intended. But perhaps it was time for honesty. Yes, Admiral. New Horizon is not our only home among the stars. As night fell on New Horizon, lights began to appear in the colony's buildings. In orbit, the Defiant maintained its vigilant watch. And throughout the Zirion Empire, leaders wondered what other surprises the humans might have in store. A new player had entered the Galactic stage, and the game would never be the same again. Major Kyle Peterson sat across from Zirion Security Director Thal in a small room on a neutral space station. The station orbited the outermost planet of the Procyon system, far from both the human colony and the Zirion fleet. Neither of their governments knew about this meeting. Both men understood the importance of talking in secret. Kyle was a tall man with short black hair and sharp eyes. He worked for Earth Intelligence, the spy agency that had been watching alien civilizations for decades. Director Thal was older than most Zirion, with gray-blue skin and all four of his eyes showing signs of age. You have been watching us for a long time, Thal said. It wasn't a question. Kyle nodded. Since your ships first passed through our solar system 20 years ago, your crew thought Earth was primitive. They didn't notice our deep space sensors, tracking them. Impossible, Thal said. Our stealth technology is the best in the galaxy. Kyle smiled and slid a small crystal device across the table. This contains records of all Zirion fleet movements near Earth-controlled space for the past 5 years, including your plans to take 12 more worlds, including New Horizon. Director Thal picked up the crystal. His hands trembled slightly. Our communications use quantum encryption. How did you break it? We didn't need to break it, Kyle explained. We helped create it. Through shell companies and scientific exchanges, humans have been influencing Zirion technology for years. Your quantum encryption methods came from a research paper published by a professor who works for us. Thal's skin changed color as he processed this information. You've been playing us. We prefer to call it preparing for first contact, Kyle replied. Humans have a long history of stronger civilizations destroying weaker ones. We didn't want that to happen to us. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the USS Defiant, Captain Patricia Miller watched as 2 new ships appeared in the system. The USS Valiant and USS Dauntless used their full drives to arrive from completely different directions, just as she had requested. The Zirion fleet is changing formation, Lieutenant Boyd reported. They're spreading out to monitor all 3 of our vessels. Patricia nodded. Good. That divides their attention. She turned to Dr. Hoffman. Any progress on the new communication system? Alan Hoffman looked up from his workstation. It's ready, Captain. Using the fold drive's quantum properties, we can now talk to all human colonies instantly without any chance of interception. Patricia activated the new system. This is Captain Miller to all Earth Alliance colonies. The demonstration at Procyon has begun as planned. Initiate protocol reveal. Back on New Horizon, Governor Catherine Morgan continued her tour with the Zirion delegation. They had reached the colony's defense center, a building buried partly underground. Our colony may seem peaceful, Catherine explained, but we are always prepared for threats. She showed them a 3-dimensional map of the Procyon system. Small dots indicated the positions of hidden defense satellites orbiting the planet. These satellites were placed here years ago, she said. They remain inactive unless the colony is threatened. Admiral Joran studied the map carefully. Your defenses are more extensive than we expected, yet you must know they would not stop. A determined attack from our fleet. Catherine smiled. They don't need to stop you, Admiral. They only need to slow you down until help arrives. As if on cue, her communication device beeped. She read the message and looked up at the Zirion. It seems that help has already arrived. 2 more Earth ships have entered the system. In a secure room in the Earth Government Building in Geneva, President Laura Harrison addressed the United Nations Security Council. On large screens around the room, leaders from every major nation watched as she explained the situation. "For generations, we have prepared in secret," she said. "The Artemis Protocol has now entered its final phase. Today we are revealing ourselves to the galaxy not as weak newcomers but as equals." The room was silent. The Artemis Protocol had been Earth's master plan for decades. It included developing advanced technology while appearing primitive, establishing hidden colonies and studying alien civilizations through secret observation posts. "As we speak," Laura continued, "our ships are demonstrating our capabilities to the Xerian Empire. Other human colonies throughout nearby star systems are also revealing themselves, each protected by ships that arrived weeks ago. In orbit above, New Horizon, the 3 human warships maintained position between the colony and the Xerian fleet. Aboard the Defiant, Lieutenant Commander Jason Ellis approached Captain Patricia with a suggestion. "The Xerians still haven't withdrawn their ships," he said. "Perhaps we should demonstrate the particle lance on an uninhabited moon. Show them what we can do without harming anyone." Patricia considered this idea. "Contact Earth Command for permission. If approved, target the small moon in the outer system. Make sure there are no ships or stations nearby." On his flagship, Admiral Joran received urgent messages from the Xerion homeworld. The Council was in panic. Reports were coming in from multiple star systems of human ships suddenly appearing near planets the Xerion had planned to take over. "What are your orders, Admiral?" his second-in-command asked. Joran stared at the screen showing the 3 human warships. "We must learn more before acting. These humans have planned this moment for years. They would not reveal themselves unless they were confident in their position." In the neutral space station, Kyle Peterson finished his meeting with Director Thal. They had talked for hours about what humans wanted and what the Xerion could offer. "Your empire has 2 choices," Kyle said as they prepared to leave. "You can treat us as enemies and face our technology in battle, or you can accept us as equals and benefit from trade and exchange of knowledge." Thal's expression was hard to read. "The Council does not accept equals easily." "Then they will need to learn," Kyle replied, "because we won't accept anything less." As Kyle's shuttle departed for the Defiant, he received an encoded message from Earth. The Artemis Protocol was proceeding as planned. Across 17 star systems, human colonies were revealing themselves simultaneously. Each was protected by ships using the fold drive technology. What the Xerion had thought was one unexpected warship had turned out to be the tip of a much larger spear. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage not as a primitive species ripe for conquest, but as a hidden power with technology that in some ways surpassed the Xerion Empire. The Defiant's sudden appearance had been just the beginning. The real shock was yet to come. 3 weeks after the Defiant first appeared in the Procyon system, representatives from 17 human colonies gathered on a neutral space station. The station orbited a gas giant in the Tau Ceti system, halfway between Earth and the Xerion homeworld. Professor Gregory Martinez led the human delegation. He was an older man with white hair and kind eyes, but his mind was sharp. As Earth's top expert on alien politics, he had studied the Xerion for decades. Across the large round table sat members of the Galactic Council. Grand Counselor Mex, the oldest and most respected Xerion, sat in the center. His skin had turned almost white with age, and his 4 eyes blinked slowly as he studied the humans. "We have reviewed the information your representatives have shared," Mex began. "It is disturbing that your species has hidden its true nature for so long." Gregory smiled. "We've observed your empire for decades, Grand Counselor. While you claim to be peaceful, your actions tell a different story. You have taken over 17 independent worlds in the last century alone." Counselor Vex, younger and more aggressive than Mex, leaned forward. "You speak boldly for a species with only 3 warships." Gregory touched a control on the table. A hologram appeared above them, showing dozens of blue dots spread across 3 sectors of space. Each dot represented a human settlement or outpost. "Each of these colonies is protected by vessels similar to the Defiant," Gregory explained. The fold drive is merely one of many technologies we've developed. The Xerion Council members looked at each other in shock. They had believed humans were confined to Earth and a few nearby colonies. The hologram showed human presence spread much farther than they had imagined. "How is this possible?" asked a Xerion scientist. "Our survey ships have explored those regions. They reported no signs of advanced civilization. Because we didn't want to be found," Gregory replied. "Earth has a long history of stronger civilizations destroying weaker ones. When we realized we weren't alone in the galaxy, we decided to remain hidden until we were strong enough to defend ourselves." On the bridge of the USS Defiant, still orbiting New Horizon, Captain Patricia Miller watched a recording of the meeting. Earth Command sent regular updates through the secure quantum communication system. "They still don't fully understand," she said to Lieutenant Commander Ellis. "The Xerion think this is about military power." "Isn't it?" Ellis asked. Patricia shook her head. "No, it's about changing how they see us. The Artemis Protocol was never about fighting a war. It was about preventing one." In her office on New Horizon, Governor Catherine Morgan met with Admiral Joran. Over the past weeks, they had developed a cautious respect for each other. "Your colony has thrived under your leadership," Joran admitted. "The atmospheric processors alone would be valuable technology for many worlds in our empire." Catherine nodded. "Technology we're willing to share, Admiral, but as partners, not subjects." Joran's skin changed color slightly. "The Council is not used to partnerships with species they consider newer to the galactic community." "Then perhaps it's time for the Council to learn new ways," Catherine suggested. "The old approach of absorbing worlds into your empire won't work with humans." Back on Earth, in a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alan Hoffman worked with a team of scientists. They were developing the next generation of the fold drive. Alan had left the Defiant a week earlier, returning to Earth to continue his research. "The Xerians still don't understand how the drive works," he told his team. "Their ships can only travel through normal space. The concept of folding space itself is completely new to them." A young scientist named Lisa Chen looked up from her work. "Should we be sharing this technology with them? It could give them a military advantage." Alan shook his head. "Not yet. President Harrison and the Security Council will decide which technologies we share and when. For now, the fold drive remains our greatest advantage." In orbit around a distant star called Epsilon Indi, the USS Valiant patrolled near another human colony. Captain Samuel Green received an urgent message from Earth Command. "Xerion scout ships detected approaching Epsilon Indi. Intercept but do not engage unless threatened. Remember, this is a demonstration, not a war." Samuel acknowledged. "The order." The Valiant moved to position itself between the incoming Xerion ships and the human colony. Just like the Defiant had done at Procyon, the Valiant would show that humans could protect their people throughout explored space. In Geneva, President Laura Harrison met with the United Nations Security Council again. The mood was tense but hopeful. "The Xerion have requested formal diplomatic relations," she announced. "They have agreed to recognize all human colonies as sovereign territory." The room filled with applause. After decades of secret preparation, humanity had achieved its goal: recognition as equals in the galactic community. "What changed their minds?" asked the representative from India. Laura displayed a video on the main screen. It showed the Defiant firing its particle lance weapon at a small, uninhabited moon in the Procyon system. The beam passed through the moon's surface without resistance, creating a clean hole straight through the entire celestial body. "This demonstration convinced them that fighting us would be costly," Laura explained. "But more importantly, our offers of technological exchange appealed to their scientific community. The Xerion value knowledge above all else." On the Xerion homeworld, the full Galactic Council met in emergency session. The chamber was filled with not just Xerion representatives, but leaders from other species within the Empire. News of the humans' sudden appearance had spread throughout their territory. "We must adapt to this new reality," Grand Counselor Mex told the Assembly. "The humans have shown they cannot be conquered or controlled. Instead, we must find ways to work with them Many council members objected, arguing that accepting humans as equals would weaken the Empire. But Director Thal, who had met with Kyle Peterson, stood to address the council. "I have studied these humans closely," he said. "They are different from other species we have encountered. They prepared for centuries, watching us while developing technologies we never imagined. Fighting them would be unwise." Across human space, colonies celebrated the news. After generations of hiding their true capabilities, people could finally live openly. Ships traveled between stars using the fold drive, no longer needing to hide their movements from alien observers. Aboard the Defiant, Captain Patricia Miller received new orders. The ship would return to Earth for upgrades and a formal ceremony. As the first vessel to reveal itself to the Xerion, the Defiant had become a symbol of humanity's emergence onto the galactic stage. "Set course for home," she ordered. "It's time for the next phase to begin." 6 months after the Defiant's sudden appearance in the Procyon system, the galactic landscape had changed forever. In the large shipyard orbiting Earth's moon, 5 new warships floated in space. Each was larger and more advanced than the Defiant. Captain Patricia Miller, now Admiral Miller, walked through the control center overlooking the shipyard. "The USS Intrepid will be ready for its first mission next week," said the shipyard commander. "The other 4 vessels will follow 1 month later." Patricia nodded with satisfaction. Earth's shipbuilding capacity had grown rapidly now that humans no longer needed to hide their true technological level. The new ships incorporated improvements based on technologies shared by friendly alien civilizations. "We never wanted war," Patricia told the young officers gathered for the inspection tour. "Our strategy wasn't about fighting. It was about changing the conversation." One young lieutenant raised her hand. "Admiral, is it true the Xerion offered to make you their military advisor?" Patricia smiled. "Yes." I politely declined. "My place is here, helping to build Earth's defense fleet." On New Horizon, now recognized as a sovereign human world, Governor Catherine Morgan hosted the first interspecies cultural festival. Representatives from 27 different civilizations gathered in the colony's central plaza. Some were members of the Xerion Empire, while others were independent species who had heard about humans and wanted to establish contact. 6 months ago, most of these beings didn't know humans existed, Catherine told her assistant as they watched the colorful gathering. "Now they're eating our food and listening to our music." Admiral Joran stood nearby, watching the festivities with all 4 of his eyes. Over the months, he had become Earth's strongest supporter within the Xerion military. "Your strategy was brilliant," he admitted to Catherine. The Defiant's appearance wasn't just about showing military strength. It was humanity announcing that you understand the rules of the galactic game. Catherine nodded. "And that we're ready to play as equals, not as subjects." In a research center in Geneva, Dr. Alan Hoffman worked side by side with scientists from 5 different alien species. They studied the fold drive technology that had allowed humans to surprise the galaxy. "The beauty of human innovation," Alan explained to a curious Xerion engineer, "is that we don't limit ourselves to established scientific ideas. We imagine what could be possible, then work backward to make it happen." The Xerion engineer's skin changed color to show respect. "Your species thinks differently than mine. We build on what is known. You imagine what is unknown." "That's why working together benefits us both," Alan replied. "Different approaches to the same problems." On the Galactic Council's home station, a new human embassy had opened. Ambassador Daniel Russell worked every day to build relationships with species who had never met humans before the revelation. Many were fascinated by humanity's approach to diplomacy and technology. "We entered galactic politics through the side door," Daniel often said to new contacts. "Sometimes the unexpected entrance makes the strongest impression." The Xerion, for their part, had begun changing their approach to expanding their empire. They now offered genuine partnerships to less advanced worlds, instead of simply taking them over. Their intelligence services spoke of the human method as a potential threat, the idea that other species might follow humanity's example of hidden development, followed by sudden revelation. Deep in Earth's Cheyenne Mountain complex, The architects of the Artemis Protocol gathered to plan the next phase of humanity's integration into the galactic community. President Laura Harrison addressed the group of military leaders, scientists, and diplomats. For centuries, humanity dreamed of reaching the stars, she said. Now that we've found a complex political landscape that requires not just technology but strategic thinking. The Defiant was our introduction. Now we must prove we deserve our place among these older civilizations. After the meeting, General Olivia Castillo remained behind with the president. She was a tall woman with dark hair streaked with gray. As the military leader who had helped design the Artemis Protocol, she felt both pride and concern about its success. They're already calling it the Defiant Doctrine in military academies, she noted. Appear suddenly, show overwhelming technological advantage, then negotiate from a position of strength. President Harrison smiled. An approach as old as humanity itself. The galaxy may be vast, but power, diplomacy, and innovation are understood by all species. In orbit above Earth, the USS Defiant prepared for its next mission. Though newer and more powerful ships were now available, the Defiant remained special. It had been the first to reveal humanity's true strength to the stars. Captain Jason Ellis, formerly lieutenant commander under Patricia Miller, now commanded the legendary vessel. As Earth grew smaller in the viewscreen, he thought about how much had changed in just 6 months. Set course for the Centauri system, he ordered. We'll be meeting representatives from the Orion Consortium. The Orion Consortium was a group of trading worlds beyond Xerian space. They had requested contact with humans after hearing about their sudden appearance and advanced technology. This was no longer about surprising potential enemies, but about building new friendships. As the Defiant activated its fold drive and disappeared from normal space, news of its journey spread across the galaxy. The ship that had once shocked the mighty Xerian Empire now served as humanity's ambassador to distant stars. On New Horizon, children learned about the day when the Defiant appeared without warning, changing their place in the universe forever. In the Xerion Academy, students studied human history, trying to understand the species that had hidden in plain sight for so long. And throughout the vast reaches of space between the stars, the story spread from world to world, how a supposedly primitive species had secretly prepared for centuries, then stunned the greatest empire in known space with a single warship that appeared without warning, changing the balance of power forever. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not with a whisper, but with the silent thunder of the Defiant. The stars looked the same as they always had from the observatory in Houston. Olivia Martinez adjusted her telescope and checked the readings again. Something wasn't right. For 3 nights in a row, she had noticed strange movements in the outer solar system, objects that shouldn't be there. Objects that moved in ways natural bodies never would. Olivia took off her glasses and rubbed her tired eyes. At 32, she had already made a name for herself at NASA as one of their best deep space analysts. But nothing in her career had prepared her for what she was seeing now. You're still here? Alan Brooks pushed open the door to the observatory dome, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Alan had been Olivia's colleague for 5 years, and they had developed a friendship built on mutual respect and a shared love of the unknown. I can't leave, not with these readings. Olivia took the coffee gratefully. Look at this. Alan peered at the screen. His face, usually relaxed and friendly, grew serious. That's not normal orbital behavior. No, it's not. Whatever these are, they're slowing down. And they're big, Alan. Really big. Asteroids? Olivia shook her head. Asteroids don't suddenly change direction or speed. I think they're ships. Alan looked at her for a long moment. You know how that sounds, right? I know exactly how it sounds, Olivia said. That's why I've triple-checked everything. I'm not wrong about this. Alan sipped his coffee, thinking. So what do? We tell someone. The military, probably. You think they'll listen? Olivia looked back at the screen, at the undeniable evidence of something massive heading directly toward Earth. They'd better. 3 days later, Olivia and Alan sat in a windowless room at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado. Across from them sat Colonel Diane Wright, commander of the Space Defense Initiative, along with several serious-looking men and women in both military uniforms and civilian suits. "Run through this one more time," Colonel Wright said. She was a stern woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Olivia pulled up her data on the screen. "These objects first appeared at the edge of our detection range about 2 weeks ago. At first we thought they were just anomalies in the data, but they've continued to move in a clear pattern, adjusting course in ways that natural objects simply cannot." "And you believe these are extraterrestrial vessels?" one of the civilian men asked. His badge identified him as Dr. Paul Simmons from the Department of Defense. "I believe the evidence points to that conclusion, yes," Olivia said firmly. "How many?" Colonel Wright asked. "We've identified at least 3 large objects and approximately 20 smaller ones." The room fell silent. "How long?" asked a woman in an Air Force uniform with general stars. "At their current speed, about 6 months, until they reach Earth," the general nodded. "Thank you, Dr. Martinez, Mr. Brooks. We'll take it from here." "With all due respect," Olivia said, "I'd like to remain involved. Nobody knows these readings better than I do." Colonel Wright and the general exchanged looks. "Very well," Wright said finally. "You're both being assigned to Project Sentinel, effective immediately. Security clearance is being processed as we speak." As they left the meeting, Alan whispered to Olivia, "Did we just get drafted into an alien first contact scenario?" "I think we did," she replied, feeling equal parts excitement and terror. Meanwhile, at the edge of the solar system, Admiral Victor Reese stood on the command deck of the Hegemony flagship Inevitable Conquest. The massive vessel, over 3 miles long, was the pride of the Galactic Hegemony's fleet. Behind it followed 2 more battlecruisers, the Subjugation and the Dominion, along with various support craft and troop carriers. "Show me this planet," again, Reese ordered. A holographic image of Earth appeared in the center of the command deck. Reese studied it carefully. Blue oceans, green and brown landmasses, swirling white clouds. It looked peaceful, ordinary, just another world to bring under the glorious rule of the Hegemony. Science Officer Zexlar stepped forward. Zexlar was not humanoid. The Trexalian species resembled something between an insect and a reptile, with 4 arms and a body covered in iridescent scales. Despite looking alien to human eyes, Zexlar was considered quite attractive among his own kind. "Our scans indicate a technologically developing species," Zexlar reported, his voice a melodic clicking. "They call themselves humans. They've achieved nuclear fission, primitive space travel within their own system, and global communication networks. Military capability is significant by developing world standards but poses no threat to our forces." "Political structure?" Reese asked. "Fractured. Multiple nation-states with varying alliances and conflicts. No unified planetary government." Reese nodded. This was standard for worlds at this development stage. Divided, they would be easy to conquer. "The planet has abundant resources," Zexlar continued. "Particularly interesting is the remarkable biodiversity and the unusual concentration of liquid water. The Hegemony Science Division will be pleased." "Resistance assessment?" Reese asked his military strategist, Commander Valk. Valk, a tall humanoid with pale blue skin and no hair, consulted her datapad. "Minimal to moderate, Admiral. Their most advanced weapons cannot penetrate our shields. We estimate total planetary pacification within 14 standard days." "Casualties?" "Depending on the level of resistance, between 10 to 30% of the native population." Reese nodded. Those were acceptable numbers for a conquest of this scale. The survivors would become productive members of the Hegemony, as had countless species before them. "Standard approach then," Reese decided. "We'll announce our presence when we reach their moon. Offer them the choice between peaceful submission or forced subjugation. Based on historical data of species at this development stage, they'll likely attempt resistance first. Already calculating optimal targets for the first wave," Commander Valk confirmed. Reese looked again at the blue planet, another jewel for the Hegemony's crown, another victory for his already impressive record. "Set course for their moon," he ordered. Standard speed. None of the hegemony officers noticed the small, sleek vessel that detached itself from the shadow of a distant moon and accelerated toward Earth, moving far faster than any hegemony ship could travel. Inside this vessel, a silver-skinned being sent an urgent message to his people, and then began preparing a different message, one intended for the unsuspecting humans. The Veil had broken their policy of non-interference only 3 times in their 50,000-year history. This would be the 4th. 2 months passed quickly. Around the world, life continued as normal for most people. Governments kept the approaching alien fleet a secret. Only a small group of military leaders, scientists, and key political figures knew the truth. Olivia Martinez had barely left the new underground facility in Colorado, where Project Sentinel had set up operations. She worked with a team of the world's best astronomers and physicists, tracking the alien ships as they moved closer to Earth. They'll reach the moon in about 4 months, Olivia told Colonel Wright during their daily briefing. Their speed has been consistent. Colonel Wright nodded, her face giving away nothing. And we still have no idea what they want? No communication yet, Alan Brooks said from across the room. He had lost weight in the past weeks, his face now thinner with dark circles under his eyes. But their course hasn't changed. They're definitely coming here. We need to prepare for the worst, said General Lena Ford, who had flown in from Washington. The president wants options on his desk by the end of the week. The mood in the room was grim. Earth's most powerful weapons seemed like toys compared to what their scans suggested about the alien ships. They had detected energy readings that made nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. What about telling the public? Olivia asked. People have a right to know. And cause global panic? Colonel Wright shook her head. Not yet. We need more information first. But fate had other plans. That night, a small object entered Earth's atmosphere, moving too fast for defense systems to track properly. It bypassed all attempts to intercept it and positioned itself in low Earth orbit. Within minutes, every electronic device on the planet, phones, televisions, computers, radios, broadcast the same message in every language. People of Earth, we come with urgent warning. The galactic hegemony approaches your world with conquest in mind. We are the Veil. We cannot intervene directly due to ancient pacts, but we offer this knowledge. You are not as defenseless as they believe. Chaos erupted worldwide. Governments scrambled to respond. Religious groups proclaimed the end times. Some people panicked, emptying store shelves and fleeing cities. Others simply waited for more information, unsure what to believe. In the underground facility, Olivia and the Project Sentinel team watched the message repeat on every screen. Looks like secrecy is off the table, Alan said quietly. Colonel Wright was already on a secure line to Washington. General Ford stood by, her face pale. The president is addressing the nation in an hour, Colonel Wright announced when she hung up. All world leaders are doing the same. We need to find that ship. It didn't take long. The vessel, much smaller than the approaching hegemony fleet, had taken position near the International Space Station. A second message came through. We request a meeting with Earth's leaders. The space station you have in orbit would be a suitable location. Time is short. Within 24 hours, as the world below tried to come to terms with the reality of alien contact, a small team prepared to travel to the ISS. The team included representatives from major world powers, the United States, China, Russia, the European Union, and India. Colonel Susan Porter was selected to lead the American delegation. At 41, she had combat experience from multiple conflicts and held a doctorate in xenobiology, a field that had been theoretical until now. Remember, we know nothing about either of these alien groups, Susan told her team as they prepared for launch. The Veil may be warning us about the hegemony, but that doesn't automatically make them our friends. The journey to the ISS took place under unprecedented security. When they arrived, the 6 astronauts already aboard the station greeted them with nervous smiles. It's been docked at the new port for 6 hours, Commander Rick Gomez told them, pointing toward the eastern side of the station. No movement, no communication since the global broadcast. Susan nodded. Let's not keep them waiting. The alien vessel had attached itself perfectly to the station's docking system, despite it not being designed for anything but Earth spacecraft. The door between the station and the ship opened smoothly. Standing on the other side was a being, unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was humanoid in shape, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, but its skin was a metallic silver that seemed to flow like liquid. It had no hair, and its eyes were large, solid black orbs that reflected light. Strangely, it wore simple blue-gray clothing that resembled a uniform. "I am Sentinel Kier of the Veil," the being said, its voice surprisingly human-like. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Susan stepped forward. "Colonel Susan Porter, United States Air Force. These are representatives from other Earth nations." Kier nodded. "I understand your caution and confusion. Let me explain why I am here." They moved to the station's conference area. The representatives sat on one side of the table, Kier on the other. "The galactic hegemony has existed for over 3,000 years, Kier began. "They have conquered thousands of worlds and species. Their philosophy is simple. All sentient life should serve their vision of order and progress. Those who resist are crushed." "And the Veil?" asked the Chinese representative, Dr. Lin Wei. "What is your interest in our survival?" Kier's expression was difficult to read on his alien face. "We believe in autonomy and potential. The hegemony expands through force. We seek balance." "Why can't you help us directly?" Susan asked. "Your technology clearly surpasses theirs." "Ancient agreements limit direct intervention. The galaxy has survived terrible wars that nearly destroyed all life. The agreements prevent such conflicts from happening again. So you'll just watch as they destroy us?" the Russian representative Colonel Petrov asked angrily. "I did not say we cannot help," Kier replied calmly. "I said we cannot intervene directly. There is a difference." He placed a small crystal on the table. It glowed with a soft blue light. "This contains information about hegemony technology, tactics, and weaknesses. Their ships are powerful, but not invincible. Their soldiers are well trained, but not unbeatable." Susan studied the alien carefully. "Why would they be vulnerable to us at all? From what we've observed, their technology is centuries beyond ours. The hegemony conquers through overwhelming force and fear. They expect no significant resistance from worlds at your development stage. This arrogance is their greatest weakness." Kier leaned forward. "They do not adapt well to unexpected situations." "And you think we can provide the unexpected?" Susan asked. For the first time, Kier's face formed what might have been a smile. "Your species has remarkable potential. Throughout the galaxy, humans are known for one quality above all." "What's that?" Susan asked. "Unpredictability. You create solutions no other species would consider. Sometimes foolish, sometimes brilliant, but always unexpected." Kier gestured to the crystal. "With this knowledge and your natural adaptability, you have a chance." "A chance," Susan repeated. "Not a guarantee." "There are no guarantees in war, Colonel Porter. But without this information, you have no chance at all." As the meeting continued deep into the night on Earth below, nations that had been enemies for generations began unprecedented cooperation. Factories converted to war production. Military forces prepared for a threat they could barely comprehend, and Admiral Reese, watching from the edge of the solar system, received troubling news. "A Veil ship?" he asked, his voice sharp with surprise. Commander Valk nodded. "Our long-range scans confirmed it. They've made contact with the humans." Reese's expression darkened. The Veil had been a thorn in the hegemony's side for millennia, always just within the bounds of the ancient agreements, never breaking them outright. "Increase our speed," he ordered. "We need to reach Earth before the Veil can interfere further." The game had changed. The easy conquest Reese had anticipated now seemed much less certain. The next 2 months were the most united time in human history. Countries that had been enemies for generations now worked together against a common threat. The crystal Kier had given them contained valuable information about hegemony technology and tactics. Scientists and engineers around the world worked day and night to develop defenses. Susan Porter had been promoted to general and now led Earth's unified defense efforts from the new Global Defense Headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility buzzed with activity as military personnel and scientists from dozens of nations worked side by side. "The crystal has revealed another weakness in their communication systems," said Dr. Olivia Martinez, now heading the science division. She pointed to a complex diagram on the main screen. "Their ships use a specific frequency range we might be able to disrupt." Susan studied the information. "Can we build something to exploit this?" Alan Brooks, who had become the lead engineer for the defense project, nodded. "We're already working on it. If we can disrupt their communications, their fleet won't be able to coordinate attacks." "What about their weapons?" asked General Wei from the Chinese military. "Their energy shields operate on predictable patterns," Alan explained. "They're designed to stop high-energy weapons like their own, but they might be vulnerable to simpler kinetic attacks, physical projectiles fired at the right moment when the shields cycle. So our primitive weapons might actually work better than trying to copy their advanced technology," Susan said thoughtfully. "Exactly," Olivia agreed. "They expect us to either surrender or try to fight them with nuclear weapons, which their shields can easily block. They don't expect us to understand their technology well enough to find weaknesses." Keir had returned to his ship after the meeting on the space station, but remained in Earth orbit. He provided additional information when asked, but maintained that the Veil could not directly intervene in the coming battle. Meanwhile, in a secret facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, a special project was underway. Dr. Sam Harris, formerly a video game developer before being recruited for his unique way of thinking, led a small team working on what they called Project Lazarus. "The Hegemony's ships are heavily automated," Sam explained to Susan during a secure video call. "Their systems are advanced, but they follow certain protocols. We think we might be able to create a virus that could infiltrate their network." "A virus?" Susan asked. "Like in a computer?" "Similar, but much more complex. If we can get it into even one of their systems, it might spread throughout their fleet. We could potentially turn their own ships against them." Susan looked impressed. "How close are you?" Sam rubbed his tired eyes. "We've made progress, but we need more time, and we need a way to deliver it to their systems." "Keep working," Susan told him. "This might be our ace in the hole." Around the world, other preparations continued. The satellite network was modified according to Veil specifications, not for attacks, but for something else entirely. Factories that once made cars now produced specialized electromagnetic pulse generators designed to affect hegemony technology. Regular citizens were also preparing. Unlike previous wars where civilians were merely victims, this time everyone had a role to play. People modified everyday technology, from cell phones to microwave ovens, to disrupt hegemony communications if ground forces landed. The hegemony, fleet now moving faster than before, had crossed the orbit of Mars. Admiral Reese watched the approaching blue planet on his view screen. "Status report," he demanded. "All systems optimal," Commander Valk replied. "The human planet continues preparations, but nothing that poses a significant threat. They appear to be fortifying their military bases and moving some populations to underground shelters. And the Veil ship? Still in orbit. No direct interventions detected." Reese frowned. The Veil were clever. They knew exactly how far they could go without breaking the ancient agreements. Providing information was allowed. Direct military assistance was not. "They've had 2 months with Veil assistance," Reese said. "Adjust our approach. We'll bypass their moon and move directly to orbital position. No announcements, no warnings. Begin the attack immediately upon arrival." "Yes, Admiral," Valk said, making notes on her datapad. "Targets have already been selected. Their major military installations and government centers will be eliminated in the first wave. And dispatch scouts ahead," Reese added. "I want to know exactly what they're planning." 3 hegemony scout ships detached from the main fleet and accelerated toward Earth. Smaller and faster than the battle cruisers, they were designed to gather intelligence and remain undetected. But Earth was watching. 3 small vessels approaching, Olivia reported, studying the advanced detection systems they had developed with Veil guidance. Based on their size and speed, they matched the profile of hegemony scout ships. They're coming to see what we've been up to, Susan said. Let's give them something to look at, but not everything. She turned to the communications officer. Implement Protocol Mirage. Let them see what we want them to see. Across Earth, certain activities became more visible, while others were carefully hidden. Military bases openly displayed conventional weapons and defenses, tanks, aircraft, missile systems. Meanwhile, the truly dangerous developments were concealed in underground facilities or disguised as civilian infrastructure. The scout ships entered Earth orbit, their sophisticated sensors scanning the planet below. They observed military movements, analyzed defense systems, and monitored communications. After completing their survey, they returned to the main fleet. The humans are preparing defenses, the lead scout reported to Admiral Reese. But nothing beyond what we expected. Conventional weapons, some nuclear capability, primitive electronic countermeasures. Reese nodded, satisfied. They're putting on a brave show, but they must know it's hopeless. There is one curious development, the scout added. They've been modifying their satellite network, purpose unknown. Observation capability, most likely, Reese said dismissively. Prepare the battle cruisers. Will arrive in 10 days. This conquest will proceed as planned. Back on Earth, Susan received confirmation that the scout ships had departed. Did they see what we wanted them to see? She asked her team. Yes, General, replied the head of counterintelligence. They detected our obvious preparations but missed the key elements. Susan allowed herself a small smile. Good. We'll only get one chance to surprise them. She turned to face the global command team gathered in the control room. Representatives from every major military power on Earth stood before her, waiting for her words. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 10 days until the hegemony fleet arrives. Everything we've worked for comes down to this. They expect us to be primitive, disorganized, and easy to conquer. They don't expect us to understand their technology or to have prepared specifically for them. She gestured to the main screen, showing the approaching hegemony fleet. But we're ready for them. Humanity has never been more united or more determined. We will not go quietly. We will not surrender our world. The room filled with resolute nods and determined faces. Earth was as ready as it could be. In his ship orbiting above, Sentinel Kier observed the humans' preparations with interest. The Veil had helped hundreds of species over the millennia, but few had shown such creativity or adaptability. Most tried to copy hegemony technology and failed. The humans had taken a different approach entirely. Kier sent a final message to his people. The test begins soon. These humans, they are unlike the others. I believe they may actually succeed where all others have failed. The reply came swiftly. For the sake of the galaxy, we hope you are right. The day of arrival came. People around the world watched the skies, some in fear, others in defiance. Many had moved to underground shelters. Cities stood half empty, but there was no panic, no riots. Humanity faced its greatest threat with surprising calm and unity. In the Global Defense Headquarters, Susan Porter received reports from monitoring stations worldwide. The modified satellite network tracked the hegemony fleet as it passed the moon's orbit. They're moving faster than expected, Olivia said, her eyes fixed on the main screen. They'll be in position for orbital strikes in less than 2 hours. Susan nodded. They're not following standard protocol, no announcement, no demand for surrender. They're coming in hot. They don't think they need to give us a chance, Alan said. They expect this to be easy. Susan turned to the communications officer. Activate all defense systems. Alert every military base. It's time. Around the world, soldiers moved to their positions. Civilians activated the devices they had been provided. In orbit, the satellite network prepared for its secret purpose. On the hegemony flagship, Admiral Reese watched Earth grow larger on the view screen. It was a beautiful world, rich in resources and life. Soon, it would be another jewel in the hegemony's vast collection. Battle stations, he ordered. Prepare weapon systems for the first wave of targets. Commander Valk stood beside him, tablet in hand. All systems ready, Admiral. Target coordinates locked. Their primitive defenses? Reese asked. Some movement, of aircraft and ground forces. Nothing of concern. Their satellite network has been partially activated, likely for observation purposes. Reese smiled. Begin the attack. Target their military command centers first, then government facilities. The 3 massive battle cruisers moved into Earth orbit. Gun ports opened along their sides, revealing weapons that could level cities with a single shot. Energy signatures detected, reported Olivia from Earth. They're charging weapons. Activate. The shield, Susan ordered. Around the world, thousands of devices activated simultaneously. The satellite network pulsed with energy. A wave of invisible force spread around the planet, creating a field unlike anything humans had built before. Fire, ordered Admiral Reese. Brilliant beams of energy shot from the hegemony ships toward Earth. But as they reached the atmosphere, something unexpected happened. The beams scattered, their energy dispersing harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. What happened? Reese demanded. Unknown, Admiral, said a confused weapons officer. The energy beams, they didn't penetrate. Impossible, Reese growled. Fire again, full power. On Earth, Susan watched the readouts with cautious hope. The shield is holding. Kier's specifications worked. The shield wasn't a physical barrier, but an energy field that disrupted hegemony weapons specifically. It couldn't stop physical objects, but it rendered their energy weapons useless against the planet. Launch the fighters, Susan ordered. Begin Phase 2. Across the globe, aircraft took off from military bases. They weren't the sleek jets people were used to seeing. These were new designs built in the last 2 months using Veil information. They looked awkward, almost ugly, but they contained technology specifically designed to counter hegemony defenses. Admiral, Earth forces are launching aircraft, reported Commander Valk, her voice tinged with surprise. Reese frowned. Primitive fighters are no match for our ships. Dispatch our combat drones to eliminate them. Hundreds of sleek hegemony fighters, deployed from the battlecruisers racing toward Earth's atmosphere to meet the approaching human aircraft. They've launched fighters, Olivia reported to Susan. Just as expected. Good, Susan replied. Let's see if our modifications work. The human fighters reached the upper atmosphere just as the hegemony drones arrived. The alien craft were faster, more maneuverable, and armed with superior weapons. By all logic, the Earth planes should have been destroyed instantly, but as the hegemony drones fired their weapons, something strange happened. Their targeting system suddenly failed. Shots went wide, missing the human aircraft completely. The human planes, meanwhile, fired simple missiles, not energy weapons but physical projectiles with conventional explosives. The first wave of hegemony drones exploded in flames. What is happening? Reese shouted, watching his fighters fall. How are they doing this? Unknown, Admiral, Valk responded, her calm facade cracking. Their aircraft are emitting some kind of jamming signal that's affecting our targeting systems. And our drone shields. They're designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles. Reese's face darkened with rage. The Veil. They've given the humans knowledge of our technology. He turned to his executive officer. Deploy ground troops. If we can't bomb them from orbit, we'll take their world the hard way. On Earth, Susan received reports of the successful first engagement. Our fighters took minimal losses, the jamming technology worked. But they're preparing dropships, Olivia warned, pointing to new readings. They're sending ground forces. Susan nodded. We expected this. Alert all ground teams. Activate the local defense grid. Hundreds of hegemony troop carriers descended toward Earth, targeting major cities and military bases. Each carried 50 soldiers in advanced battle armor, armed, with weapons that could reduce a human to ash in seconds. The first wave landed in North America. As the alien soldiers emerged from their ships, they expected to face either a terrified population or conventional military forces they could easily overwhelm. Instead, they found empty streets. Their sensors detected humans nearby, but not in the open. Spread out, ordered the hegemony commander. Find their leaders and eliminate resistance. The troops moved through the abandoned streets of Washington, D.C., weapons ready. Suddenly, all their communications went dead. Their armor systems flickered. From buildings, sewers, and hidden bunkers, humans emerged. They weren't soldiers in the traditional sense. Many were civilians armed with strange devices cobbled together from everyday technology. Others were military personnel with modified weapons. The hegemony troops fired, but many of their weapons malfunctioned. The humans' devices were broadcasting signals on exactly the right frequencies to disrupt their systems. Those alien weapons that did work found their targets taking cover, fighting in ways the hegemony had never encountered before. Similar scenes played out around the world. The hegemony's superior technology was being countered by human ingenuity and unpredictability. Back in orbit, Admiral Reese received increasingly desperate reports from his ground forces. "This is impossible," he muttered. "They're primitives. How are they doing this?" "Admiral," Valk said, her voice now openly concerned. "Something is happening to our systems." The lights on the bridge flickered. Screens displayed error messages. "Our network has been breached," reported a frantic systems officer. "Some kind of intrusion program is spreading through our ships." Project Lazarus had been activated. When the hegemony troops landed, they had unknowingly carried the human-created virus into their own network. "Shut down all systems," Reese ordered. "Isolate the flagship's computers." But it was too late. The virus spread from ship to ship, exploiting weaknesses in the hegemony's network that the veil had revealed. Critical systems began failing throughout the fleet. In the Pacific Ocean facility, Sam Harris watched his screens with growing excitement. "It's working. The virus is in their system." On the main hegemony cruiser, chaos erupted as life support systems failed and artificial gravity fluctuated. Admiral Reese clung to his command chair, watching his perfect conquest crumble around him. For the first time in his long career, he faced the unthinkable: defeat at the hands of a supposedly primitive species. And with that realization came an emotion Reese had never experienced before: fear. For 3 days, the battle raged in space and on Earth. The hegemony fleet struggled against the virus that infected their systems. On the ground, their soldiers faced resistance unlike anything they had encountered in thousands of years of conquest. The Global Defense Headquarters, Susan Porter hadn't slept in nearly 48 hours. She studied the latest reports with bloodshot eyes. Their main cruiser is still operational, but the other two have lost most of their critical systems, Olivia reported. "Our fighters have destroyed over 60% of their smaller craft." "And on the ground?" Susan asked. Alan pointed to a world map covered with glowing dots representing battle zones. "We're holding our own. They've taken some ground in major cities, but their advance has stalled. The distributed defense networks are working better than we expected." The distributed defense was perhaps humanity's most creative strategy. Instead of relying on centralized military forces, they had armed millions of civilians with simple devices that could disrupt hegemony technology. The aliens faced resistance everywhere they went. Not organized military units they could easily target, but ordinary people fighting for their homes in ways the hegemony couldn't predict. "What about Project Lazarus?" Susan asked. Sam Harris appeared on a video screen looking exhausted but triumphant. "The virus has reached their command systems. It's giving us partial control of some of their ships, including weapons and navigation. But they're fighting back, creating countermeasures. We need to act fast before they lock us out." Susan nodded and turned to the global command team. "It's time for our final play. Prepare Operation Checkmate." "That's risky," Alan warned. "If it fails, we lose our advantage. If we wait, they'll recover," Susan replied firmly. "We strike now, while they're vulnerable." On the hegemony flagship, Admiral Reese fought to maintain control of his fleet. Emergency systems had prevented a complete shutdown, but many functions remained compromised. "Status report," he demanded. Commander Valk, her uniform now torn and dirty from fighting electrical fires on the bridge, consulted her tablet. "The subjugation and dominion remain heavily compromised. Our ground forces report continued resistance. We've lost nearly 40% of our troops." Reese slammed his fist on his command chair. "How? How is this happening? They're primitives." "The virus in our systems," Valk began, "is unlike anything we've encountered," Reese finished. "It adapts, it learns. This is beyond human capability. Lee, Vale must have given them more than just information, Valk suggested. Reese shook his head. The Vale wouldn't break the agreement so blatantly. His eyes widened with sudden understanding. Unless the humans developed this themselves, using only Vale information as a starting point. Before Valk could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple human vessels approaching, reported the sensor officer. And our own fighters. They're turning against us. The Project Lazarus virus had gained enough control of the hegemonies, smaller ships to turn them against the flagship. Meanwhile, Earth's fighters launched a coordinated attack. Evasive maneuvers, Reese ordered. Divert all power to shields. But the virus had affected their navigation systems. The massive cruiser responded sluggishly, unable to avoid the incoming attack. Earth's fighters fired their missiles, not at the ship's hull but at precise points where the shields were weakest, coordinates provided by the Vale. The hegemonies' own compromised fighters did the same. Explosions rocked the flagship. Fires broke out on multiple decks. Life support began to fail. Admiral, Valk said, her voice now calm with the clarity of inevitable defeat. We should consider withdrawing. Reese stared at her in shock. In 300 years of service to the hegemony, he had never retreated, never lost. The very suggestion was unthinkable, but as he looked at the view screen, at the burning wrecks of his other cruisers, at the swarms of Earth fighters and his own compromised vessels closing in, he knew she was right. Prepare a communication to Earth forces, he said finally, his voice hollow. Request terms. On Earth, Susan received the message with stunned silence. The hegemony was asking for terms of surrender, not Earth's, but their own. They're actually giving up, Alan said in disbelief. Susan turned to the communications officer. Tell them we accept their surrender. All hegemony forces must withdraw from Earth ground and orbit. Their commander will meet with us to formalize terms. 6 hours later, a small hegemony shuttle landed at a military base in Switzerland, chosen as neutral territory. Admiral Reese, once proud and confident, now walked with the stiff posture of someone unused to defeat. Susan met him in a hastily prepared conference room accompanied by military leaders from around the world. You fought effectively, Reese said, clearly struggling with the admission. The hegemony has never encountered a species like yours before. We fight harder when we're fighting for our home, Susan replied. Reese studied her for a moment. The question is, what will you do now? The hegemony will not forget this defeat. They will return with a larger force, unless, Susan asked, sensing an offer coming. Unless we reach an agreement, a true peace, not just a temporary ceasefire. Susan leaned forward. We're listening. Reese placed a data crystal on the table. This contains star charts marking all known hegemony, worlds, plus allies and enemies. Consider it a peace offering. Susan picked up the crystal. And what happens when we visit these worlds? Reese's alien features formed what might have been a smile. That, General Porter, is what terrifies the Vale. Later, after Reese had returned to his damaged flagship and the hegemony fleet had withdrawn from Earth orbit under watchful eyes, Susan met with Sentinel Kier one final time. The hegemony is retreating, she said. We won, thanks to your help. Kier nodded. You would have found a way even without our information. That is what makes humans interesting. Susan studied the alien's unreadable face. Reese said something curious. He said the Vale fears what might happen when humans begin exploring the galaxy. Is that true? Kier was silent for a long moment. The Vale does not fear humans. We fear what any species might become with too much power and too little wisdom. The hegemony became conquerors. Others became isolationists or fanatics. And what do you think will become? Susan asked. That is the question that has divided the Vale. Council, Kier admitted. Some believe you will bring balance to a galaxy long dominated by the hegemony. Others fear you will simply replace one empire with another. He gestured to the stars visible through the window. Your potential exceeds any species we have encountered in 50,000 years. Your adaptability, your creativity, your determination, these qualities make you uniquely suited to thrive among the stars. That sounds like a compliment, Susan said. It is an observation, Keir replied, and a warning. Great potential brings great responsibility. As Keir's ship departed Earth for the last time, humanity looked to the stars with new eyes. They had faced the most powerful empire in the galaxy and survived. More than survived. They had won. The data crystal contained not just star charts but technology that would accelerate human development by centuries. Within a year, the first human ships capable of interstellar travel would be ready. The galaxy that had dismissed Earth as just another primitive world to be conquered was about to meet humanity on equal terms, and nothing would ever be the same again.